thank you for 10 fans. Oh, thank you, you're so kind. Welcome back, thank you. Oh, thank you. No, you're the best, truly. Oh, thank you so much. Alrighty, hello friends, welcome back to Talking Sports at Work. I am your host, Derek Persley. I'm going to turn the music down a little bit. I hope everyone had a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Hope you had a fantastic week. I was off work all of last week, as many of you know, and so no podcast. I meant to do an episode on the YouTube channel, but that didn't really pan out. Had a lot going on last week, and I didn't go anywhere, but I have made the decision that I am going to go somewhere on my next vacation. I'm rapidly approaching 40, it feels like, and I've still never really been anywhere. I've never been anywhere outside of the South except like Ohio. I mean, I've been, I've been the furthest north I think I've ever been is Ohio. I've been, lived in Florida. I've been all over the South, Georgia, Alabama. I've been as far west as Texas, only a couple of times, and yeah. I've always wanted to travel, and that's been always one of the things that I've sort of lamented the most, that I feel like has been missing from my life. So yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to do it on my next vacation week. I've already started making plans, and gonna do that. But excuse me. Anyway, but as of last week, I didn't. I did a lot of stuff, that I would normally do on my week. I got caught up on housework and stuff with kids and blah blah blah. I had an interesting week, but I'm not going to delve into all of that. And the reason being, because we have a lot to talk about today. I'm going to go ahead and turn the music off because and I'm not even going to pretend that today's episode is going to be a short one. I know I say that very often, and then it ends up running long. This ain't going to be a short one. What in the hell is going on here? I've got almost this whole exit blocked off here. Anyway, so we have a lot to talk about. Football is back. Thank the gods. Thank God. It's time. It's the best time of the year. And not even just football, man. I mean, the Halloween stuff is out at the stores. I took the kids to the little Halloween store here in town to do some costume shopping. We didn't buy anything yet, but we were just getting some ideas, and we just like going there. It's fall weather is approaching, which is my favorite. Thanksgiving, Christmas. It's the best time of the year. And football. I mean, come on. It really is. And so I'm always, pretty happy, generally in September. It's still everything's beginning. We've got all this to look forward to. And then, I love it while it's happening. And then January, I'm usually depressed, especially if the Titans aren't in the playoffs. But we're not going to worry about that right now. So we got to see the very first look at the new Volunteers team, Vols offense, and man, oh boy, Nico looks like everything we hoped he was going to be. So we'll dive into that. Also, we'll take a pretty deep dive, I think, into the Vols game because it was even though it was against UTC, against Chattanooga, there is a lot to look at there. Also going to talk about some of the other results that happened, particularly LSU, Florida, Clemson. I don't mean to be negative, but there's some things we need to talk about with those teams. Also going to analyze the NFL starting. We've got a lot to talk about with that. The Titans have a new head coach. They have a new offensive line. They've got a lot of new skill position players. A lot to be excited about there. Thursday, we're finally going to have some real NFL football with the Chiefs and the Ravens. And I've got a lot on my list. Those are just a few of the things off the top of my head. So first off, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to try to stop for just a second, look over my notes, see what we need to get into first, and we will be right back. All right, friends, welcome back. So, first things first, like I said, the Volunteers, of course, it was against the UTC Mocs, and so, it was expected to be a blowout, but there's still a lot of things you can take away from that. It's different from the preseason in that, most of the time it's similar to the NFL preseason when teams start against these cupcakes like this, but it's a really good way, especially when you've got a new quarterback and a lot of new players. It's a really good way to get them into it, and I don't mind it. Excuse me. Now, the man, that offense looks like it's going to be better than ever. I mean, this looks like truly the best iteration of what's already been, throughout Josh Heupel's a few years here, one of the best offenses consistently in college football. And this looks like the best version of it now with, his mostly his recruits, his players, and a lot of talent all over the field, and the superstar 5-star quarterback to lead the way. And man, if you watched it, you saw, I'm sure, what I saw, which was Nico Iamaleava making NFL caliber throws. I mean, the kind of throws that we just haven't seen a Tennessee quarterback make in a long time, a long, long time. Hendon Hooker was excellent, obviously. But he was never going to wow you with his arm strength. Nico can. Josh Dobbs was the same way. He was going to make some crazy plays and lead the offense, manage the offense properly. But he also wasn't going to wow you with his with his just natural ability. Nico will. I mean, this dude is, and again, he is yet to really be tested. I mean, he had the game against one of the better defenses in college football last year. In his first official start. But, for this year, with this offense, with this team, we're really going to get a better idea of how everybody's going to look next week against NC State. But man, I mean, you could see, dude, some of those throws that he was making were just, I mean, I was in awe. They were beautiful. They were NFL quarterback throws regularly. And it wasn't just like, with Joe Milton, who, he'd chuck it 60, 70 yards down the field and hope somebody could run under it. No, he was throwing lasers, 20, 30 yards down the field, putting them right on the hands of the receiver. The one deep ball that really did stick out to Thornton was, sort of a lob. He didn't try to fire that one in there, which you probably could have, but he just tossed it up, trusted his receiver to go get it, and he did. I mean, and one of the things I was silly, but one of the most impressive plays, just for me personally seeing it, was a check down that he took where it was in the second quarter, and you could tell that it was meant to be a deep ball. That he's looking, he looks to this side, goes through, one's not there, two's not there. He looks, the running back's wide open, 6 yards down the field, just puts it right on him, and then the running back's able to get a first down. I mean, that decision making was as impressive as anything. He went 10 for 10 to start the game. He ended up like 22 of 26, maybe. Only played the first half, 300 and something yards, 3 touchdowns. And again, I know this was not against a top, an FBS defense, but man, just seeing the things that he can do is truly, truly, it's very exciting. And I was even reading just earlier today on ESPN, they had their power rankings after week 1, and they've got Tennessee at 12. And the first thing was, if you did, the first thing it said was, if you hadn't already bought into the Nico Iamaleava stock, the price just went up. And that's because, man, we see what this dude can be. And again, we'll see for sure. We'll know more next week against NC State. I think everyone expects us to win that one. Where we're currently, first time I looked, we were 6.5-point favorites. I think that's gone to 7.5 now. But and then we have a couple weeks out. I think then we play another cupcake, and then 3 weeks from now, we play at Oklahoma, which is really going to be one of our biggest tests of the season. I think, our biggest tests this year are that one. That will be the first one. Not that I think Oklahoma's better. I think we are the better team. I think most people would agree that Tennessee is the better team right now than Oklahoma. But playing on the road at Oklahoma, it's going to be tough. In their first SEC game, they're going to want to win. So that one's going to be tough. We host Alabama. I think we should win that one, but damn, they look good too, man. Jalen Milroe just continues to impress and continues to get better. but that's one, having them at home, that we definitely can win. And then at Georgia, Georgia is still just in a class all their own. So I think sort of the expectation is that's going to be a loss. And but we'll see. I mean, our defensive front is as good as theirs, which means it's as good or better than anybody else's in the country. Our offensive line is very good. Our receivers are excellent. I mean, Brew McCoy, he actually looked better after coming back from the injury, and like he was making moves that that you didn't see him make before. Like he uses that big strong body, and he's going to catch the ball. He's going to he'll get the 50-50 balls, and if he's got room to run, he'll try to run over. He was like wiggling and making moves that he had some agility to him that I don't remember him really having before. So he looks even better. Deontay Thornton actually can catch the ball now, which was really the only knock against him, but it's a pretty big one. He was good at everything already. Throughout his year. I think he just came last year, but he just couldn't catch the damn ball. He dropped him, and now it seems like he's gotten past that. Chris Brazel, the transfer from Tulane, looks like an excellent addition. And Squirrel White, who you figure to be like one of, if not the best slot receiver in the SEC, we didn't even really see that much out of him because, he didn't have to. But then the running backs also looked excellent. Dylan Sampson, the questions were, how would he be able to thrive as sort of now the lead back? There's no more Jalen Wright. There's no more Jabari Small. It's just going to be mainly the Dylan Sampson show. But I've been saying since late last year, watch out for Cam Seldon, dude. When I've seen that guy get his opportunities, he is a beast. Like, he is a big, powerful runner, and you got to see some of that in Saturday's game as well. So I don't think it's just going to be the Dylan Sampson show. I mean, he is going to be clearly the number one, but Seldon is for real as well. He's not, the all around third down back like we had three of them last year. Dylan Sampson is still going to be that this year. He's more of a first and second down power runner, which we'll have to see how that works in this hurry up offense. But man, when he gets his opportunities, he is big, strong, fast, and knows how to run that ball. Bishop also looked really good. So the skill position group looks excellent. The offensive line looks really good, and I was looking too at the Pro Football Focus or what, I guess it's PF. Yeah, I guess it's still PFF the PFF grades. It's the analytics company that gives grades on everything, but they rate individual player performances in the NFL and in college. And our highest rated player in that game by PFF was Nico. And that's when your highest rated player on your team is your young star quarterback. That's a damn good thing, man. That is a really, really, really exciting prospect. And we had a lot of other guys have really high ratings too. I don't remember the rest of them, but I do remember that the highest rated performance on our team was the quarterback, and that's just wonderful. Like I said, the defensive line is going to be as good or better than any in college football. We didn't even see James Pierce. He only played, I think, 10 snaps in the game. I assume just because we didn't see the need in having him out there. We know what he is. Let's get these other guys some more, playing time. And also, you don't want to risk an injury or something like that in a game like this. But Tyree West has really, really come on, and he's continued to get better. Like as of last year, like he started coming on a little bit last year, and man, he looks to be he looks to be a very, very good player. Of course, we know what Amari Thomas is. A big, powerful, presence who can stuff the run, who's going to take up double teams, and who can actually get after the quarterback for as big as he is as well. Bryson Eason, who else, man? I mean, just that depth along the defensive line is truly as good as anybody in the country. And then you've also got the best, who many people consider to be the best defensive player in the country, in James Pierce. So, yeah, that's really exciting. The linebackers and the linebackers looked good, but it wasn't much of a test for them against UTC. We'll still have to see how they're gonna work, but you expect to see Pilly play well now that he's healthy and hopefully going to make it through the season. Arian Carter and the rest of them. The secondary continues to be the biggest question mark on the team, just because we had so many transfers in that secondary, and we lost one of our starters in the preseason. So on top of losing, all of our starters to graduation or transfers, we also lost one of the new starters already. But they weren't really tested. They weren't going to be tested in this game, especially because the front was just so dominant. So we still don't really know any more about the secondary than we already did. But we'll see. That's still going to be the biggest question mark, I think, on this team, and they will be tested certainly against a veteran quarterback and a good team in NC State in the neutral site Saturday. We also, with as well as the receivers played, like Thornton was unstoppable. He looks like just the new deep threat guy on the team. Brew McCoy is just your he looks like a tight end, but now he seems to be even more elusive than ever. Squirrel White, again, maybe the best slot receiver in the SEC. Brazel looks to be an excellent outside receiver as well, who can kind of do a little bit of everything. But then we didn't even get to see Mike Matthews because he's got, I guess, a little bit of an injury, or Braylon Staley, two of these super exciting 5- and 4-star freshman receivers that we're really excited to see. We didn't even see either of them. And so then, Nimrod played well. I mean, the depth at receiver is better than ever. The offensive line, again, looked really good, and there's just a whole lot to be excited about with this team. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Vols. I mean, I've got a lot more, but I'm not going to spend the entirety of the episode on them. Although I definitely could. Yeah, it's very, very exciting. Nico again continues. We've only seen him now with 2 starts, but in both of them, he has been excellent, and he has been everything that we hoped for. Like, he has lived up to and exceeded my expectations. Because with anything like that, I'm going to kind of temper my expectations. I'm not going to be the unrealistic, fan thinking, here he comes, he's going to win the Heisman this year, and we're going to win the national championship every year. I think, as most Tennessee fans, especially of my age, who've lived through the last decade prior to Josh Heupel, we know to let's be cautious about our optimism. And so I continue to be that. And so you're hearing, like, even a cautiously optimistic Vols fan gush over his performance because he was just that damn good. It was so wonderful. But anyway, I'm going to stop on that for a minute. I'm sure, think of other things that I wanted to talk about, but there were a lot of other topics that I did want to dive into today. I'm going to take a quick break, look over those, and I will be right back. Doo-doo-doo. I think I like that one. I talked to one of my friends at work who listens to the show, and I think that's the one he said he liked, because I tried a few other ones for the new segment sound effect. I think that's the one he said he liked. I like this one. There are a couple of ones that I like, but that one, it's got a little bit of an NFL-y sound to it, and it also reminds me of the Jurassic Park theme, so I don't know. I like that one. Anyway, so we're going to get off the Vols, but we are going to stick in college football because, a lot's happened. First of all, I haven't talked to you guys since the first big game of the season, which was Florida State surprisingly falling to Georgia Tech. That was, they were 10.5-point favorites going into that game. I even considered taking that, but I didn't. And yeah, I don't know what to make of Florida State this year. I don't know that anyone does, but I do think it's safe to say that Georgia Tech is better than most people expected and better than they usually are. But anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. There are more things that I am going to spend more time on. Number one is one that I did take, and I told a few of my friends to take as well, and that was USC over LSU. LSU, Brian Kelly is the most overrated coach in college football. He is a lot like Lane Kiffin used to be, although it feels like Kiffin has finally grown up and, you know, become a really solid head coach. You know, people kept giving him opportunity after opportunity, and he could, it was like he was the Adam Gase of college football. I always felt like, and now it kind of feels like, although it's not the same, Brian Kelly is now definitively, in my opinion, the most overrated coach. I didn't understand why LSU wanted him. I didn't understand why he wanted to leave Notre Dame. That seemed like a good fit for him. But it happened, and I don't think he's going to be there that much longer. I don't see them competing for a national championship with him. He's a good recruiter. He's a decent strategist, I think, but he's just not what everybody makes him out to be. I don't understand the fascination. I don't understand why people continue to believe that Brian Kelly's this excellent coach. I mean, it, his biggest accomplishment so far has been making it to the national championship, which is a lot more than most other coaches have done, obviously. But what's the one thing everybody remembers about that? They got destroyed. It was like 40. I don't remember what the score was, but they lost by like 40 points to Alabama. And again, that is an accomplishment. Making it to I shouldn't belittle that. That is an accomplishment, making it to the national championship. But I've never felt like Brian Kelly was that good of a coach. I was, again, very surprised a few years ago that LSU hired him. I thought there were multiple better candidates available. And we've seen now, this is the third year in a row. Ever since he has been there, he has lost their first game of the season, or they have lost their first game of the season under Brian Kelly every year. The first two were to Florida State, now this one to USC. And I'm sure all of those games, they were the favorite. And kudos to them for continuing to schedule these big games and not just start off against cupcakes. But, that was my biggest reason for saying, telling people to take USC in this one. It was like plus 150 to 160, the money line, which is what I took. And I do believe that USC is going to be better this year. I said, and I'm saying what I said before the game. I think now with a new defensive coordinator, they can at least have an average, hopefully, defense, or not a terrible one. And that with Lincoln Riley, they're always going to have a powerful offense. And I just don't think LSU's as good. I mean, they've got the talent. They always have the talent, but I don't think Brian Kelly's a good coach. They continue to lose early in the season. And so I just felt like this is a good opportunity to take the underdog. I always like underdog betting. That's, in fact, I think the only bet that I made this week, because it was the one that felt like, that spread is wrong to me. Like I can make some money on that one. And yeah. So and anyway, then we saw his little rant after the game, which I feel like everybody made kind of a big deal about. It seemed to me almost a little bit staged, like he was intentionally trying to show some emotion. And I don't care about that. I mean, that's the thing that stuck out to me the most, wasn't the fact that it was, I don't even think it was that much of a rant, like everyone's saying. I just think it was, he pounded his fist on the table. That was the most extreme element of it. And what really stuck out to me about it was that it really just felt like it was an act. Like it really just felt like he's just making a point of showing how much he cares and how much he's angry and, showing some emotion here. It just felt staged to me. I don't know. But again, maybe that's just my not liking him and looking for the worst in him. I don't know. But the other SEC team that was really disappointing, the most disappointing by far of the SEC teams this week was the Florida Gators, man. I don't see Billy Napier making it. I don't even know if he's going to make it to the halfway point of this season. It's clear now he's not the guy. And, he was a good coordinator. He was a good, seemed like a good prospect as a head coach. It's not working. It is not going to work. This is now year 3, I think, for him. And, that's when you really should start to see some true positive results and see some success, that's kind of when you expect to start really seeing things happen for a head coach, is in year three. But they look worse than ever. Miami's a good team. Don't get me wrong. Miami's a good team. I don't think they're a playoff team though. They're going to get a lot more credit in this one than maybe they should, at least in my opinion. I mean, they deserve a ton of credit because it's still the Swamp, and going in there is never, ever, ever, ever easy. So they deserve a lot of credit. But I just really think Florida is bad right now. I mean, this might be the worst we have seen Florida in my lifetime, and that's including, Will, whatever his name was, and they've had some tough years since Urban Meyer. This is maybe the low point, though. Getting blown out at home in the Swamp against an in-state sort of rival. Yeah. Now that quarterback, the Washington State transfer, I can't even remember his name. He looked very good. And Miami's always going to have, good talent. And it looks like they've got the quarterback now. I think Mario Cristobal's a good coach. And man, Tyler Barron, the Tennessee transfer, was just wrecking people. And I kept thinking all along, man, just imagine how unstoppable this defensive front would be for the Vols if he had not left. Like, he would probably be the second best, defensive line, or the second best edge rusher, at least on the team. But I don't know if he just didn't want to be overshadowed by James Pierce, or he just knew that with all the other depth and talent on this team, he might not be, getting as much playing time, or might not be the star that he could be elsewhere. I don't know what his thinking was. We never really know unless they tell us why these kids transfer. But, he can be a star at Miami. Clearly, he was a star in that game. And yeah, Miami looks good, but I don't think that they are. I don't see them as being like a true playoff contender this year. I mean, I think they'll be in that range. I think they'll continue to be a top 25 team, but Florida just looks, man. And it's to the point now where it's like, you'd think I'd be happy about it, but it's kind of sad because even though, I've hated Florida my entire life, I still kind of want them to be good because it feels like it's better for college football. It's better for the SEC. It's better for Tennessee when our rivals are good. But yeah, that's a game that's a team that is just struggling to find their way, and it feels like maybe now is going through the same kind of thing that we went through for years. It has been years now since Florida was good. They've been through three coaches now since Urban Meyer, and they've just never really gotten back to. And I'm not saying that they should expect to find the next Urban Meyer, or to get back to where they're always, a national championship contender. But, you would expect them by now to be back to sort of, at least a top 15 level team. But they're not. Florida sucks, man. They really, really do. And they've got a lot of things to figure out. And I think it ain't going to happen for them this year, because I think the biggest problem, or the thing that is going to change, is Billy Napier. He's just, after that loss, I do not see him surviving much longer. The only way he makes it through this season is if they just go on an absolute tear and win at least 9 games. And if you look at their schedule, it'd be tough to find 9 wins on there for them. And then, so Florida was maybe the biggest disappointment of the week. LSU, if you're an LSU fan, it was disappointing. Like I said, I was not surprised by it, so I don't think I wasn't disappointed by it because I won money off of it. But yeah. And then another one that was disappointing was Clemson, although, it's Georgia. They're going to make a lot of teams look bad this year. That's just what they've been for the last few years now, where it just feels like they're in a category all their own. But you did think that Clemson was at least going to keep it closer, and they did in the first half. That's kind of what I expected that game to look like throughout. It was a battle, and it was close. And I don't remember what the halftime score was, but it was a 1-score game. And then in the second half, Georgia just tore them up. And so what that really led to was not so much a discussion about the game as a discussion about Dabo Sweeney and how he just continues to be stubborn, it feels like, at this point. And excuse me just a minute, I'm going to sip of my coffee. But they actually showed a graphic on, I think it was Get Up or something that I was watching yesterday. And there were 4 teams in all of the Division One FBS level who have had 0% of their starter or 0% of their players. Well, I don't remember what it was, but it was like their playing time of transfers was 0%. And it was Clemson and then the 3 service academies, Army, Navy, and Air Force. Excuse me. And so that just, amplified that entire discussion about, has the game just passed Dabo by? He's either going to have to cave and come into this new way of doing things, or he's not going to be the answer for a top tier school. Because remember, it's not that long ago that Clemson was definitively a football powerhouse, one of the best teams in the country. They won 2 national championships under Dabo, and they were always going to be a contender. And then what changed was NIL, the explosion of the transfer portal, and he just wants no part of that. And look, he's from that Nick Saban coaching tree, and he that was one of the biggest things, or sort of at least like the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess, that sent the greatest coach of all time in college football into retirement. Was he just didn't feel like this was the same game anymore. This was not the same sort of environment, the same sport where he had so much success for so years, and maybe he felt like he was too old to try to change again. But it was the transfer portal, it was the NIL, the pay for play. It was a big part of why Nick Saban just decided to go ahead and hang it up. And Dabo has continued to be stubborn and say, I'm not participating in that. And look, he's either going to have to cave and adapt to this new way of doing things, or yes, the game is definitely, if not hasn't already, passed him by. I think I don't know what other evidence you need at this point. That's not to say that's the only problem with Clemson, but if they were to, pick up some transfers and add some, I look at the transfer portal as essentially the same as NFL free agency. That's what it is now. And it's the same as in the NFL. You build your team through the draft, and then you supplement that with some free agent additions. And it's the same way with college football. You build the core of your team, the majority of your roster, by recruiting, but then you can pick up key additions like we need another receiver, we need another defensive end, we need some more help in the secondary right now. That's what the transfers are for, just like free agency in football. You pick up these key positions, these key players that you need right now to come in and make a difference on your team. And I don't know why anybody would not want a part of it. Now, I get that there's the money element has become a huge element of it. And I can see how some people don't, find they find that distasteful, or they don't want to participate in that. But that's the way it is now, man. And now that's going to lead me into an entirely different conversation, because I've always felt pretty strongly about that. And I even wrote an essay about it for a class a few months back, or a year back. I don't remember when it was. But about how I have always been of the opinion that I don't even see how it's legal. It feels un-American to me that billions and billions of dollars can be made from the work of these kids who aren't seeing a dime of it, who aren't even allowed to, see any sort of profit from it, who get suspended for getting free tattoos like Ohio State, or, who get their Heisman taken away for whatever the hell Reggie Bush did. They get, not only do they not get a piece of it, but they get punished for even trying to get a small piece. And that's just always felt wrong to me. And so I'm glad that there is now a way that these kids can, profit off of the billions of dollars, just get a small piece of the pie that they are the ones baking. Um, but there obviously needs to be some sort of governing body, some sort of oversight, some sort of structure in place beyond what we currently have, where it's just basically the Wild West, and whoever can raise the most money can pay the most money and can get the most transfers and get the best recruits. And I don't know if I mean, I've said the other thing I've been saying is I think it's going to have to be Disney. It's going to have to be ESPN, the one who final, or the conferences themselves, who just finally say, okay, and we've got to take this system over and we've got to implement some rules, because the NCAA is impotent now. They have absolutely no real authority in college football anymore. College football has just outgrown them, basically. And so it's going to have to be Disney, who basically owns and runs the whole CFP college football playoff thing, or the conferences themselves getting together. Somebody's going to have to come up with a system, whether they implement a salary cap type thing or whatever they need to do. There needs to be some sort of oversight, some sort of structure, some sort of rules in place for this. And I think that they will eventually get there. But for now, it basically is just sort of the Wild West. Let's raise as much money as we can. Let's pay as much money as we can. Because that's how we're going to get the best players. And you know what? Whatever, we'll figure it out. But I still think that, honestly, I think that's still preferable to these kids being punished for even seeking a piece of the multi-billion-dollar industry that they work to build. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, there are still plenty of those out there. The college football purists or the traditionalists, like Dabo, like a lot of the older fans, like a lot of people who still believe that it's not good. It takes the amateurism away. It makes it, and whatever they want to say about it, and they have valid arguments to make that it does change the game and in some ways makes it worse. But I just again, I'm of the opinion that this has needed to happen for a long time, and that even this Wild West system of what we've got now with NIL is still preferable to these kids being punished for even trying to get a piece of it. But Dabo seems to be of that old school mindset. And look, they were talking about it. It was on Get Up, I believe, that I was watching. They had Paul Feinbaum on there and Joey Galloway, Heather Dinich. And they were discussing Dabo, and they used Nick Saban as an example, but different from what I was saying. They were talking about how, for years, Nick Saban did not like the way that offenses were changing in college football, how everything was going to this, fast-paced, up-tempo spread stuff that he didn't really like, he didn't want any part of. And we saw that Alabama wasn't maybe doing quite as well, during those couple of years until he finally decided to adapt. And okay, I'm gonna do that too. And he got a Jalen Hurts who could run that. He got a Lane Kiffin who would call and run and create and build that sort of offense. And once they adapted to that, they were back to being the dominant Alabama again. So we've seen examples of these stubborn coaches not being happy with the way the game is changing, but then eventually adapting to it. And that's what Dabo is going to have to do. He's either going to have to accept that this is not just the way that the top teams are doing it now. This is the way that literally everyone is doing it now, except for you. Because the other three were, like I said, the service academies. So they're not getting transfers because that's a different situation. But you're literally the only one who's not doing this. And you can't even compete now with the top teams like you should be able to do, like you were able to do. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. I talked about LSU. I talked about Florida. I talked about Clemson. The last point I wanted to make about college football, I think, was just one quick thing. And I know that, everybody's excited to see how things are going to work now with conference realignment. And Texas seems to be very confident about coming into the SEC. The media seems to be very confident about Texas coming into the SEC. I'm just going to tell you, man, Texas and Oklahoma are in for a very, very rude awakening very, very soon. And I've got a good friend who's listens to the show occasionally, and he's a Texas fan. He's going to get mad at me for saying this probably, but it's just the truth, dude. This both of those teams are about to find out what they just got themselves into. And Texas is not making the. I don't know. I'm not going to say that they won't make the playoffs because they might still be one of the 12 best teams. They're not winning the SEC. They're not going to the SEC championship. Yeah, they're not going to be in the top five. They're just, and I don't even know what their schedule looks like. I know that we're not on Texas's schedule this year, but I really don't even know what their schedule looks like. It doesn't matter though, because now they have an SEC schedule. Now, this ain't the Big 12 anymore, man. And I said all of last year, or at the end of last year, I did not think Texas deserved to be in the college football playoff last year. I felt like Florida State or Georgia, either one, both clearly deserved to be in more than Texas, whose, one signature win was beating Alabama. And that was early in the season before Alabama even had their quarterback situation figured out. But anyway, that's another topic. Texas is a good team. Texas is, in terms of talent, coaching, probably a top 10 team. But they're about to find out, man. We can't do things the way we did before. This ain't the Big 12 anymore. I'm telling you, if Texas manages to get 10 wins this year, I will, I don't know, I'll do something. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should actually look at their schedule before I say that. But I, I know Oklahoma's not getting to 10 wins this year. And I'm just telling you, dude, they can be as cocky as they want. They can be as confident as they want. I'm telling you, they just got themselves into a situation that they've never been in before, and that's playing an SEC schedule. It's just the truth. This is not subjectivity. This is not me being, just an SEC homer. Or it's just a fact. Y'all have been successful in a much weaker league for years now. You're not in a weaker league anymore. You're playing with the big boys. And now there are no gimmies. If you play Vanderbilt, that's the one that you can expect to be an easy game. But hell, even Vandy. That was something else I wanted to mention. Go Vandy, by the way. They beat Virginia Tech this week. That was awesome. Good for them. But, they're still going to be Vandy, but good for them beating not just a cupcake, but beating, a real, a solid opponent in Virginia Tech. But look, it doesn't matter what Texas's schedule looks like, whether it's Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee and Ole Miss, and it's a lot of Auburn and Missouri and South Carolina. It doesn't matter because none of those games are gimmies anymore. You do not have a Big 12 schedule anymore, man. You're about to find out what it's really like. And I'm telling you, I don't think either of those teams are getting to 10 wins this year. Actually, let me pull over for a second, because now that I've started, now I'm really curious. I want to know. See if I can find somewhere to stop here. Here's this place I can stop. All right, so bear with me for just one moment, friends. All right, so looking at Texas's schedule, they've already got a tough out-of-conference game this week against Michigan, but I think they are better than Michigan. It is on the road, and that's never an easy place to win, so it should still be a test for them. But I don't think Michigan's going to be nearly as good without Jim Harbaugh anymore. But that's already a tough out-of-conference test for them. And then they start off with an easy one against Mississippi State. But again, even that, it's at home for them as well. So they should be able to handle that. They play at Oklahoma, which is nothing new for them. Then they got Georgia coming to town. In their building, they have Georgia. They're not going to win that one. Then they go at Vandy. That should be a win. They're hosting Florida. I'm telling you, even that, don't count that as a win too early. But they should be better. Shit, they do have an easy schedule as far as the SEC goes. Yeah, they've got Florida at home. Then they go at Arkansas. That's another one. Don't start counting your chickens on that one. They're hosting Kentucky. Same thing. Don't think you're just going to go, just roll all over them. They are not even. And then anyway, so then it's Kentucky at home, and then their final game is at Texas A&M. I don't think they'll win that one. But I don't know. We'll see. Texas A&M was another one that looked a little bit disappointing. They've got a lot to figure out. They've got a new coach. Connor Wigman does not look like the savior, the star quarterback they hoped he was going to be. So Texas A&M has a lot to figure out, but they've been in the SEC for a few years now, so they've been sharpened by that iron. So playing at Texas A&M is never going to be easy. But yeah, honestly, looking at their schedule, it is as far as SEC schedule goes, it is one of the easier ones. There's no Tennessee, there's no Alabama, there's no Ole Miss. So yeah, they did get a pretty lucky draw there. But just looking at Oklahoma is going to be tough for them, obviously. Georgia at home, that's going to be a loss unless Georgia has a bunch of injuries or a lot changes. Having Florida at home, they should win that one. At Arkansas is not going to be a gimme, even though they are in a state of transition and flux. And then hosting Kentucky is not going to be a gimme. But yeah, man, they might get to 10 wins. I mean, really, the only one that you look at on their schedule and say that should be a loss is Georgia. Their toughest games outside of that would be at Oklahoma, and then at A&M. Yeah, they do have a pretty. So I guess I was wrong. Maybe they will get to 10 wins, but again, they're they're going to lose at least one of those games that they're favored in. Whether it's Kentucky, whether Florida figures some things out and is able to go in there, whether it's at Arkansas, or if it's even this first one at Mississippi State, they're going to lose one of those that they're not expecting to lose. And then they're going to lose to Georgia. So that would still be that would still be 10 wins for them. So maybe. But either way, I'm just saying this is not the Big 12 anymore. Oklahoma and Texas are both about to find out how truly grueling this schedule is. And even if you do make it out of there with 10 wins, it's going to be tough. It is going to be a gauntlet. That's just the way it is. But they do have this has to be one of the easiest schedules in the SEC this year. They got pretty lucky with this draw. I mean, seriously, that's surprising. The only one of the top teams they play is Georgia. There's no Alabama, no Tennessee, no Ole Miss, no Missouri. So yeah, I don't know. Texas may end up okay out of it, but it's still going to be more difficult than any Big 12 schedule that they have played in the last 20 years. Anyway, I kind of got off topic there. The point is they are both just about to be in for a rude awakening. And even with what looks like an easy SEC schedule is still comparable to being a very hard Big 12 schedule. Even this, what looks like an easy path is just, by what's the word I'm trying to think? By comparison, it's a sliding scale. So anyway, I feel like I kind of I disproved my own point there by pulling over and looking at that. But the point I'm trying to make is still that it's just going to be tougher than it ever has been for them, even with what looks like an easy schedule. So, and then Oklahoma, I think, did kind of end up with a tougher run of it. I don't know exactly what theirs looks like, but Texas is a tough one. We know that they play us. I don't know who else they ended up with, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and then hopefully we'll have time to go over some NFL stuff and look forward to the upcoming, with 3 days of NFL games coming up. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, friends. I don't know if it's on the Bluetooth now or on my AirPods. I don't know what the deal is with this van. But anyway, so I checked out my notes, and while I stopped, I was curious. I got myself curious. I did want to see Oklahoma's schedule, and they do have a much tougher run of things this year. They did not get the lucky draw that Texas did. They have us September 21st. Then they're at Auburn. They're hosting Texas, hosting South Carolina, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, hosting Alabama, and at LSU. I mean, that's tough. That's really, really tough. There are several games on that schedule that you think that those are probably going to be losses. I mean, I think we will beat them, on the road. I think even at home, Texas is probably going to be favored. They're probably going to be underdogs at Ole Miss and maybe even at Missouri. They'll be underdogs against Alabama at home and might be underdogs, at LSU, who will probably have things figured out by that late in the season because that's where they finish the season. But yeah, that is a tough road. That's even tougher than I'd say. I mean, that's a gauntlet right there. They don't have Georgia, but man, they've got just about everybody else. So anyway, we have the NFL coming up this week. Thursday, we're going to get to see the Chiefs hosting the Ravens, the defending Super Bowl champions. I don't know what the spread is on that one, but yeah, I'll start looking at that stuff probably tomorrow, and see if there are some bets that I'm going to make. But the Titans are opening up at Chicago, and I'm telling you, man, I think we're going to win that one. I think people are, and this isn't just this. That's not just me being a Titans fan. That's also because I think people are way too high on the Bears this year. I think for whatever, and I get that they did well in the draft. They got Caleb Williams. They added some pieces in free agency, but I just don't think that they are nearly as good as a lot of people seem to think so. I still don't think Matt Eberflus is the right coach. I don't think he's going to make it through the season there. I think they should have fired him and just gone ahead and started fresh with an offensive-minded guy to coach your young quarterback. But I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I like Caleb Williams. Don't get me wrong. I do think he is going to be a star in this league, but he's a rookie. He has a good defense, and they added some weapons. I mean, DJ Moore is for real. I'm not as big of a Rome Odunze fan as most people are, but we'll see. He should. I think the expectation is for him to be a good number 2 receiver. Keenan Allen, I don't see that as being a big addition just because he can't stay healthy. I mean, he's already 31 or so. I'm not sure, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy for a while now. Their offensive line is decent, but not great. I'm not a believer in DeAndre Swift. I never really have been. I don't think that was the big signing that everyone seems to think. I don't know why people were so high on that signing. But again, I think the Bears are going to be like their expectations, like what they should be really realistically shooting for this year is maybe 9 wins. And I don't know that they will even get to that. They've got the defense, and Matt Eberflus is a damn good defensive coach, but I don't think he's very good of a head coach. And I just think with a rookie quarterback and a lot of other might be good pieces, but we're not sure. I don't see it, and I think that we are the better team. I think it was 2.5 or 3.5. I'm gonna take that. We are underdogs against them, and I'm gonna take the money line on that. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the Titans look like, man, because there's a lot to be excited about with Tennessee. And I've been saying this really the entirety of the offseason. Everything about our success this year and in the near future is going to depend on 2 factors, and that's Will Levis and Brian Callahan. We have reason to hope and believe that both of them will be good, but we just can't say for sure about either of them. If Will Levis is our franchise quarterback and if Brian Callahan is the good head coach we believe he can be, then yeah, we're looking good for the foreseeable future. If either of those guys are not what we hope they're going to be, then we're in trouble. And yeah, but if both of those guys are what we hope they're going to be, then we can compete in this division, a division that's on the rise. Every team in this division is getting better, with maybe the exception of the Jaguars. The Jaguars are the one team that it feels like didn't do much to definitively improve this offseason. Everybody else did. The Texans, who already won the division last year, went on a spending spree and added a ton of really good players. They should be even better this year. We went on a spending spree, actually have a good receiving core this year, going from the worst offensive line and maybe the worst receiving core in the league last year to having one of the better receiving cores in the league and at least hopefully an average offensive line this year and an offensive minded head coach. I like the dual threat of Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, who are both dual threat runners themselves. And I think the defense is going to be good. We did a lot to improve that secondary, which was a big weakness of the team. One question mark that remains is still the edge rusher position. We know that Harold Landry's really good. We know that Arden Key is pretty good, but neither of those guys are elite, certainly. And behind them, there's not much. There's really not a lot that, as far as we can rotate guys in. But, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be a monster. Tavondre Sweat looks like he is going to be a force in the middle. So having those two guys right there in the middle is going to help a lot on first, second, and third down. Because it looks like Tavondre Sweat, is actually going to be able to play all three downs. Like, he's slimmed down a little bit. He looks more agile and looks like a better pass rusher than we thought he might be. Like, that defensive front looks pretty good. But behind those four guys, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of depth. The secondary, L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, Roger McCreary, adding Quandre Diggs, adding Jamal Adams, Amani Hooker's still there. I mean, this looks like a good defense. And, I do like Denard Wilson coming in as the defensive coordinator. I think the Titans are going to be, and I've heard this from other people as well. Harry Douglas, I remember, was the one I heard most recently say it. Actually, I heard Jamie Erdahl on Good Morning Football say it as well. The Titans are going to be better than people expect this year. And they actually did a thing on Good Morning Football where they were like ranking teams who finished last in their division last year that were most likely to go from worst to first. So the teams that finished last year and were most likely to win the division this year, she had the Titans as number one. And yeah, I think Tennessee is just a team that everybody's always going to sleep on because people don't pay attention to us. We're a small market team in Tennessee. It's just not a big, people aren't going to, the national media is not going to pay that much attention to us unless we're, really winning, and yeah. Anyway, I'm running out of time here. There were a few other things that I wanted to get to. What else? I was going to talk about, I had my fantasy draft over the weekend. I feel like I did pretty well with it. I ended up, I got, who did I get? I got Jonathan Taylor. I got, what's his name? Josh Jacobs. I got Lamar Jackson. I got Calvin Ridley, who I really have high hopes for. I also got Tony Pollard, was another Titans player I got. So I feel like I did pretty well in my fantasy draft. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, the Titans also had a thing. Apparently, I was listening to a podcast, which is something that you may be surprised to know I don't listen to podcasts normally. I know it's strange considering that this is a podcast, but I've tried to get into it more just so I can learn a little bit more about it and see if this is something that I really want to continue doing and try to grow, or but it is pretty cool. I don't know why I was hesitant to do it for so long, but I've started doing it a little bit. I listened to some Vols podcast as well as a couple of Titans podcasts, and I like it. And anyway, one thing that I heard, actually listening to one this morning on the drive to take the kids to school or daycare, was that over the weekend they had a little Meet the Titans like dinner event, I guess. And at that event, Brian Callahan took an opportunity to name the team captains for the Titans. And they are also going to wear the little C patches on their uniforms, which I like. I don't know, but it's something that the Titans didn't do before. I'm not sure why, but now we are going to start doing that, which I think is a cool thing. I don't, again, I don't know why we didn't want to do that. Most teams do, but it's a cool thing, and it's a cool way to help guys stand out as leaders and to honor them, sort of, to give them a little bit of extra praise for being leaders on the team. But anyway, it was Jeffrey Simmons, it was Will Levis, it was Morgan Cox, the long snapper, was one, Kenneth Murray, the linebacker, and then Lloyd Cushenberry, the new center, was named a team captain. So two guys who just joined the team this year were named team captains. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, I've already gone over an hour, and there's still more stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it off for today and quit talking you guys' ears off. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Today is Tuesday. I may do another episode maybe on Friday after the first NFL game, but we've got a lot to look forward to this weekend, man. NFL starting. We'll have the Titans' first game of the year. We'll have the Vols' first real test of the year against NC State. So even if I don't do an episode Friday, I am sure that I will be back with you early next week. I hope everyone has a great time, and thanks for listening. Yeah, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Oh, thank you, Pretend Audience. All right.